we covered the three major risk factors, which were blood pressure, keeping that in check, don't smoke, and ApoB. And we've now talked about the things to adjust ApoB levels. We did not really talk about things to adjust blood pressure. I'm assuming exercise sits as one of the foremost.
Exercise, nutrition. Yeah, weight management is a huge one here. So, you take a person who's blood, and this is one of those things where we don't immediately jump on the pharmacotherapy train with blood pressure, because here there are side effects sometimes. And you do have to worry about overshooting. You don't really have to worry about overshooting a person's lipids. We do back off if we overshoot, but it doesn't cause a symptom. There's not a short-term immediate risk from doing that. If you overshoot somebody's blood pressure medication, you trade one problem for another problem. They become lightheaded when they get up to pee at night. They fall and bang their head. That's a devastating consequence. Totally unacceptable. So our goal is to see how much we can lower blood pressure without medication before we turn to medication. And let's be clear, the meds today are so much better than they used to be. Again, there was a day when the side effects of these medicines were miserable. That's simply not the case today. I mean, ACE inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers, I mean, these things are very well tolerated, especially the ARBs. So again, almost anybody can be on these things. But if we could get a person to lose 10 pounds and exercise every day, we see great effects with zone 2 stuff, right? So kind of the low intensity cardio.
And your recommendation there? I know you talk about this in the book, but I've thrown out numbers about 150 to 180 minutes per week. You go a bit higher.
Yeah, we go 180 to 250, 240. Yeah, I'd like to see 3 to 4 hours a week of zone 2. So that's an important piece, and sleep is an important piece. So get the sleep right, get the exercise right. If you're overnourished, let's correct that problem. And if all of that doesn't work, and by the way, that works a lot of the time. That works most of the time. If that doesn't work, then we've got pharmacotherapy. There is still a true phenomenon of essential hypertension, which is in individuals for whom all the fixable stuff has been fixed and they still have high blood pressure. We still have to medicate those folks. By the way, there's something that I want to mention here that doesn't get much attention, but it's so important, which is the effect of high blood pressure on the kidney and also the brain itself. We've talked about the brain, we've talked about the heart, but the kidney doesn't get enough attention. The kidney is a remarkable organ. And I think if you're really in this game of trying to live longer, right? If you think, hey, maybe we'll live 80, 85 years, but if we kind of start doing all of these other things and really optimizing our behaviors, that could be 95. Well, you have to start thinking about the capacity of the kidney. And once the glomerular filtration rate falls below a certain level, you have to be very careful with how you live your life. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that is another sort of mistake that's made in kind of modern medicine, which is we don't pay enough attention to how to measure kidney function correctly. We rely very heavily on something called creatinine, as opposed to looking at another biomarker called cystatin C, which is far more accurate. And we also tolerate too low of a kidney function for a person's age. So we look at, we might look at someone who's 50, whose kidney function is at 65% and say, you're totally fine. Because it's true that at 65%, there is no problem. But you're not thinking, well, if this person has to live another 40 years and this continues to go down, they're going to potentially be staring down the barrel of needing dialysis the last 5 years of their life. Again, you want to die with compromised kidney function, but never from compromised kidney function. In fact, the hazard ratio of all-cause mortality associated with compromised kidney function is even greater than that of heart disease. Once you cross that threshold, lights out. Once you are needing dialysis, your risk of death is higher than that of someone with high blood pressure, smoking, even someone who has cancer. You have a higher risk of death having end-stage renal disease than you do having cancer. So the kidney is so sensitive to blood pressure. This is a tiny organ that on every pump of your heart is getting 20 to 25% of your blood.
Wow.
So just imagine how sensitive and susceptible it is to elevated blood pressure.